Okay, so Xbox 360 Connect in 2025. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but here's how you do it and make it look pretty good at it while you're doing it. So, what you're really going to need is kind of like 4 infinity stones. Well, really 5 that you're going to need. So, K2VR. K2VR has something made called Amethyst, which is, of course, open source body tracking. And, they do Kinect, PlayStation Move, OWO tracking if you're looking for something else, but this one's for the Kinect. So, you know, in documentation here, they walk you through absolutely everything you're going to need to know: installing, getting started, app overview, setting up your Xbox 360 Connect, everything you're going to need to know. Common issues, of course. Quality is tracking quality is the same as Xbox 360 Connect and compatible base station devices. Do all sorts of stuff. And then what else you're going to need is standable. I found standable is really needed, of course. Standable is kind of gives it that special sauce where you really look like you have 11. Well, you do have 11-point tracking if you use if you use standable. And then it's $19 here, so you're at $20 right now. And then Connect adapter. You're gonna need to find this special adapter to work with your PC, and you got to make sure it's the right one. Connect adapter for the Xbox 360. Make sure the Xbox 360's got a special USB connect that the adapter's got to work with, and it's this one right here. Make sure you don't get an Xbox One Connect because I made that mistake and I have it just in a box and I cannot use it and wasted money there. Just make sure you get this one. They say don't buy from Amazon, but honestly, there's really no point in not buying from Amazon. The one I bought, which is exactly this one, works just fine. I've had it for half a year and it's been working fine for that long. And of course, reviews are pretty good. Amazon choice, but too. Xbox 360 Connect. If you don't already have one, just hop on eBay, buy a cheap one like this one right here. Where it still works, just get it. There's no point in buying a new one right here, $50. Just don't. Just get a used one. And these game bundles, of course, avoid the game bundles. There's no point. You're not going to be using those games. And then what else here? Yeah, you're going to need all that. So Amethyst. This is the Amethyst app. You can see my wireframe. Amethyst will never show your body or your room. It'll only track your wireframe. And then let's go through the app here. Settings. There's a lot of stuff in here that's good to know. You can change your app theme, dark light, enable app sounds. I really like having automatically start with Steam VR because then I can just go into my desktop display and get it calibrated. And you can keep your VR headset on for the calibration the entire time. So when you're in, like VR chat or whatever, you can just do it while you're talking to people. It's that easy. And then tracker configuration. You can have 4 different trackers. There's absolutely no point in having elbow trackers. Standable does it great. And then knee trackers, I've used those once. I didn't really like them all that much. And then waist and feet. I usually use these. I always keep the waist on and feet trackers on. You don't need the waist. You could just have the feet, but the waist adds it like that kind of like special, make it look even better. Tracking output. You can do 2 different types of tracking output: SteamVR or VRChat OSC. Really up to you. I use SteamVR because, of course, I got to get this to work with Standable. And then you can check your code, successful code. That means you're connected and everything. You can check your devices here, successful connection, everything. Check your status. You can also see your status on the home page, Xbox 360 Connect status. And then you can check your code status as well if all your drivers are working. And that's about it. And then calibration. There's 2 different types of calibration. I never use manual. I don't really see a point in using it. I use automatic. Of course, automatic, they have different capture points that you can do. You can do 5, you can do 4, you can do 3. The minimum is 3. I usually do 4. I find that just works the best. So calibration, stand in one spot. You don't actually have to move somewhere else for the first one. And then I move to the side. Try to make it so you're not that shaky. Then I move back. Of course, I'm really shaky here. And that reminds me, what you're wearing really affects it as well. Don't wear baggy sweatpants, really baggy shirt. Also, I've found that wearing socks, you don't want to wear socks. You want to leave those dogs out. Let them bark. You know, it really helps the tracking, at least from what I found. There's no like color difference or whatever. I don't know how it really affects it, but I've just found that works better. So in VR chat, this is really vital. So here I am. You have to actually find avatars that kind of fit with this kind of tracking. There's certain avatars that you use that don't work that well. This one works well. My hips are actually here. My shoulders are actually where my shoulders are, and my chin is actually where my chin is. Find stuff that kind of fits where you're at. Your build, and then calibrating. So when you calibrate, this allows Standable to actually hit dynamic mode and it recognize the proxy trackers you have on. And when you're in Steam VR, the proxy trackers or the Vive proxy trackers are going to look backwards. Okay, that's totally fine. You don't have to worry about that. It's supposed to look like that pretty much. So here you are. You can check Standable. Blue means dynamic mode. I usually leave these little things open so dynamic mode can, work. I found that works the best. And then what dynamic mode does, it kind of steals the tracker from Steam VR here. See how it says tracker not detected? The tracker is actually there, you can see my leg moving. It's just in Standable's algorithm, and Standable's kind of interpreting it and smoothing it. I also have OpenVR smooth tracking. There's a certain video on here where this lady goes over like vital stuff to have, or vital software to have for VR, and she brings up this, and it works really well, especially for this setup, because this setup gets kind of shaky. As you can see, my legs are kind of shaking, and I have my smoothing turned up. It looks better, when you shake, because Amethyst is like bugging out, or your Kinect is seeing other infrared light from the sun and everything. Let me turn this there. Now you can see me. So yeah, when you can use open source, open smooth, open VR smooth tracking. Yeah, look that up. Get that, and it'll make it work all that much better. And now let's go over some of the stuff you can do. So with the tracking, you can move your hips, obviously, move your legs. You're gonna want to find that sweet spot in front of your Kinect as well. Make sure you're facing the correct direction. You can put tape on the ground. I have carpet. I'm not putting tape on carpet, but yeah, once you find that good spot, it looks great. Move your hips, kick. You also put your foot on the wall. The wall's not right there. There. Of course, it kind of tweaks out a little bit, and then it starts tracking, and then you can move your hips, do all sorts of stuff. You can jump as well. Do a little starfish in the air, jumping jacks. Of course, if you live in an apartment, don't do that, obviously. Yeah, kick. Okay, bending over. This is where it gets a little complicated. So go like this. As you can see, actually, it's working pretty well right now because I have my smoothing turned up. But if you get too low, you'll start to tweak out. Oh wow, I think it really low. Yeah, see, it's kind of tweaking out here. I kind of look like a crumpled piece of paper. It's because the tracking loses its stuff. But if you have smoothing on, you can get pretty low, all the way to the flow. But yeah, and then let's see what else. 360. You do not want to turn around. If you turn around, you'll occlude. But then it'll snap back to your back. I didn't know I could do that. But get away from that there. Yeah, don't do 360s. If you do, you'll occlude. And then sometimes it'll mess up your actual tracking. and then you have to recalibrate. Recalibrate regularly. There's no point in not doing so. Keeps it smooth, keeps it steady. See, I have no idea what I just did, but there's this like hologram everywhere. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, comment that. I'll try my best to answer them with my limited knowledge. And then, actually, let me show you what a bad avatar would be to use with. See, this one's proportions are kind of weird. Of course, you always want to recalibrate every avatar's kind of built different. See, when I bend over, my feet will go out. You can't really do as much. You just got to find one that's kind of built like you. Yeah, it's not as ideal. And you can go back to that. I really don't like this like hologram thing, but I'll figure out a way to turn it off. And then you're back. You can do whatever you want. That's it. I'll try to answer questions and everything. Just let me know. And then if you guys have any other like software or anything, you can add to kind of make it better, please comment that. I'm always trying to make this like little process better. But this is the best I have right now. Pretty convincing. Looks great. Looks way better than it used to. How the fuck do I turn this off? Is it that? It's not that. Oh well. But yeah, there you go.